So I've never actually read any of Lenin's philosophy, but a couple of paragraphs of his writings have been brought to my attention by Mellow Meromi One, who posted a couple of comments defending this sort of objective or materialistic picture of the universe from what he just perceived to be my own Berkeleian idealism or Kantian phenomenalism. Um, so I'm going to read each paragraph and then respond to it. So Lenin writes, and this may be translated by Mellow Meromi from Russian, I'm not sure. But Lenin writes, those who hold to the line of Kant or Hume, like Mach, call us, the materialists, metaphysicians because we recognize objective reality which has given us an experience, because we recognize an objective source of our sensations independent of man. We materialists follow Engels in calling the Kantians and Humeans agnostics, because they deny objective reality as the source of our sensations. So, in a way, this is true, and I wouldn't want to deny with the materialists and the objectivists that there is a world independent of what we call man, what we call the human mind. Yeah, of course. But I think the problem is in assuming that subjectivity and objectivity were ever separate in the first place. To conceive of the brain as some sort of a processor that receives information from a pre-given world and tries to sort of copy it or reconstruct it internally, that's a mistaken notion. When we build computers and try to get them to navigate real environments like most living creatures can, they simply fail, or it just takes too long for them to successfully navigate these environments, because whatever the brain is doing, it's not internally representing the external environment as if it were composed of separate, discrete objects. Rather, the organism co-evolved with its environment, and so, from the Darwinian perspective, we would say it fits into a certain niche. But that again can lead us into the mistaken notion that the niche was there before the organism sort of fit into it. Because really, organisms make their own niches. An organism's environment is in part its body. In a very literal sense, if you took a thermal image of a human body, you would see that I don't know, about a centimeter, extending a centimeter away from the skin would be this thermal radiation, sort of an artificial atmosphere that the body creates for itself. It just hovers right off the surface of our skin, literally reaching out into the air that surrounds us. So in a sense, we're creating our environment, but in a larger sense, life itself, the first anaerobic bacteria that emerged in the seas, they started releasing a lot of oxygen as a byproduct, and eventually that created the atmosphere or environment that allowed more complex life, oxygen respirating life, to emerge. So what we've got is a process of evolution that's not merely an organism adapting to an objective world, but rather an organism environment system constantly co-creating its polar relationship with the other. So then, if we think about idealism or Kantianism versus materialism, something like Marx or Lenin, we're really drawing up a false dichotomy here, because like I said at the beginning, I agree that there's an objective reality, but to be an object is also to be a subject to some degree. In other words, why are we aware of objects in our environment? Well, because we feel them. We relate to them, not just mentally, but physically, causally, emotionally. So, yes, I know the world because I'm in direct emotional contact with it. But then, see, this is a pan-experientialist position that an objectivist or a materialist is going to want to distance themselves from. They're going to want to say that subjectivity is really has nothing at all to do with the way the universe works. It's just an accidental puff of smoke at the end of this very long evolutionary algorithm. You know, from my perspective, that's a failure of our science to adequately investigate the experiential terrain. Because if experience, if consciousness, that whatever we think human consciousness is, it's something. We've obviously, it makes us capable of science in the first place. Let's see, if our science just tells us that this capability of intelligence is a fluke, a random accident, which has really no relationship to the lawful dynamics of the universe itself. If once we've done that, we've handicapped science because it's admitting that it cannot explain man. It cannot explain consciousness or intelligence. It's just a fluke. It's an accident, it says. But I would say if your theory leads you to call your own experience, your own ability to theorize an accident, then and if that theory is trying to account for the cosmos, if it's a cosmological theory, if your cosmology leaves out human consciousness, whether by not mentioning it, or saying that it is a fluke or an accident, an otherwise stupid, mindless universe, then you haven't explained all that there is there in your experience to be explained. If science is synonymous with materialism, with observation of matter in motion, the reduction of organic matter to inorganic matter in motion, and the sort of position on intelligence, which is, like I said, it's a complete accident. There's no reason for it. It has nothing to do with the rest of the universe. If that's your explanation for intelligence or subjectivity or whatever you call it, then it's a failure in your science because it's lopping off a whole side of the reality that's objectively there for us to know. So to simply say that reality is material, to try to wash one's hands of experience and subjectivity and consciousness and feeling and emotion and intuition, that is ultimately to contradict oneself, because certainly this objective world out there that we say exists, we know it exists because we sense it, right? So from the very beginning of our knowledge of an objective world, feeling, sensation, perception, awareness, all these have been involved with our entry into the objective. So we have knowledge of the objective because we are perceptive subjects who are also objects. Every body in the world, be it highly developed organism or a molecule or an atom, every body in the world has an internal state whose intensity is correlated with the organizational complexity of the body, the particular body in question. So the experiential intensity of a human body is far more noteworthy than the experiential intensity of an atom of hydrogen, which seems merely to it communicates in the force of gravity, which is a very weak, though